If you didn't know, faux collars are kind of having a moment right now. So come with me while I take one of my old shirts and transform it into something that I'll actually wear. If you're new here, my name is Carly and I like to sew and craft to keep from losing my mind while I'm going through menopause. Back in my day, people used to call these Dickies. Now we're calling them faux collars. I actually like that name a lot better. They are a very simple project to make on your own, perfect for a beginner. All you need is an old shirt and a sewing machine and something to cut with. So let's get started. Okay, so I chose this shirt because I think that little denim faux collars under sweater are super trendy right now, but also this shirt, I've had it for years and I never wear it. It's just kind of boxy and not very flattering in my opinion. So it's the perfect one to, upcycle and make into something new that I can use to style a kind of boring looking sweater. So what I'm going to do to start is mark where I think the bottom of my faux collar should go. And I'm probably going lower than you might suspect because although most of my sweaters are crew neck, I do have one that I would really love to wear this faux collar with that has more of a V. So I want to make sure that it is low enough that I'm not having issues with it wanting to like come out of the neck. So I'm thinking I would like to cut it, let's see, but this is the 4th button. So just above the 4th button from the top. I'm using my little fabric marker here to remind me when I get this off of where I need to make these marks. I do see a lot of people going all the way to the shoulder seam to make their cut, but since this is a little oversized and kind of boxy, I don't really think that's necessary. I think I'm going to go about an inch in, make a mark here, and then match it on the other side. I'll measure this when I get it on my cutting board, but mainly I want to make that mark because I'm going to put my sweater on and test it and make sure that it's all going to look good. So I'm not too worried about the crew neck sweaters that I have, but like I said, I have this V-neck that I want to make sure when I put it on that I'm not going to have any issues with the faux collar coming through the neckline. So pardon me while I put this on. I've already done this once this morning and I can verify that I would never wear this full button-up shirt underneath the sweater. It's just so bulky, so uncomfortable, and living out here in West Texas, even in winter, it's pretty warm. So you can see it's like even kind of difficult to get this sweater to look right. And it's just like, ugh. This will be so much better once I have the majority of the bulk cut away. Just trying to get it on right. Hold please. Okay, I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. So here's that 2nd button and I feel like, okay, yeah, I like that a little better. Go ahead and button it, which means I definitely have to keep this button here. So going down to that 4th button is a good call. And I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with the shoulder seam at all. Great, yay. The other thing that I kind of realized is that these pockets can absolutely be removed because I'm probably gonna be cutting through it anyway. So I don't want any, maybe you can kind of see, maybe not. Oh yeah, some texture there. We don't want that. So, all right, off to my sewing room now.
Okay, so first things first, I tried to get this shirt to lie as flat and even as possible. I think I adjusted it and readjusted it about 30 times, but oh well. Next, I used my measuring tape to mark my cuts along the shoulder seam and kind of trace my path from there down to the center button. keep in mind that none of this will ever show, so it does not have to be exact. Then I grabbed my rotary blade and started trimming the excess material away. You'll see I had to use my scissors in certain areas where there were multiple layers of fabric. I also mistakenly thought I could just rip those pocket seams real quick, but that turned out to be a much more time-consuming task than I realized. But I'm so glad I did it because it really does look nice and smooth underneath my sweater. I also ended up trimming the backside a little shorter just to decrease the extra bulk as much as possible. Okay, here's the seam ripping clip. I cut almost all of this out. You're welcome, because it took me about 20 minutes once all was said and done. So after that, I pressed my raw edges under about a 1/2 inch all the way around. This really isn't a critical step, but I do think that when I started sewing, especially around those corners, it made it a lot easier to keep my hem even. So then I took my collar over to my sewing machine and started sewing a simple hem all the way around. There were a few areas where there were several layers of fabric, and I had to kind of guide the fabric under the foot by tugging on it just a bit. No big deal. Also, I just did my best going around those curves. You can see I go pretty slow there, tucking and stitching little by little as I went. I guess you could square it off, but I personally like the rounded edges. Okay, so I have about another minute of stitching, so you can watch and enjoy the musical break, and then I'll be back with the finished result. Okay, I just gave her a little press so the collar will be nice and crisp when I try it on here in a moment. I will say the pockets were a challenge to remove, and it doesn't look the best there, but you know what, it's never gonna show. I double check my seams to make sure everything is nice and folded under, and I'll flip it over to the back. I have seen that some of these have like a little tie up under where you can attach the front and the back under the armpit, and we'll see if I feel like I need one of those, but I could always add that later if I want. So hang on tight and I will do a little reveal. Okay, so here's the finished project on. I do have the bottom button buttoned, and then I've left these two open, and I have to admit it feels amazing. It's not bunchy or bulky. It's light. It's like 55 degrees outside, and I could definitely wear this on a typical winter day here out in West Texas. I love it. I'm going to try to back up a little bit. Can't really get much of my outfit, but anyways, how cute. A little up close. This is my very first tutorial I'm posting on YouTube. I'm not an expert sewist by any means, but I have figured out a few things over the last 15 years and wanted to come on here and share with you. So let me know in the comments if there are any other tutorials you would be interested in seeing from me. Till next time.